All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the LGC webinar series. Today we're partnering with the New Hampshire Partners for Healthy Schools and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Today's webinar is Designing a Healthier Classroom. I am Tim Parsons, your moderator, and I'm here with Eugene Benoit. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Good.
Hi, everybody. Good morning.
I'm going to start with giving you a few tools that will make this whole process a little bit easier. On the right hand of your screen, you may have a control box either open or closed. There's a little orange arrow up in the up in the corner of that box that allows you to open and close that and allows you to participate with us today. A couple of the key features, first off the bat, is the hand raising feature. And we're going to test this with you. So you should have the box open at this point. And the first question for you of the day is, how many folks out there who are participating in the webinar have used the IAQ Tools for Schools program? You've actually used the kit. You've received it in your school. So if you could just take a moment. Let's see those hands. We have we have about 10 of our 42 attendees so far. So about 25% have actually seen or used the kit. All right, excellent. Another key feature that you have available is if you scroll down on that control box, there is a text box that allows for questions and answers. It's actually called the questions box. You can click on the arrow to open that, and this will allow you the opportunity throughout the presentation to ask us questions. We are saving questions and answers for the end of the presentation, so hold on when we finish up. We will take the time to go over those. We feel that oftentimes we can answer many of those questions throughout the presentation, so we'll save that till the end and allow us all to gather for that. All right, another couple of things. So that's it for the control box. Again, please participate with us. Enjoy the show. We will be sending out a survey through SurveyMonkey at the conclusion of this presentation. It will probably go out about 90 minutes after the presentation concludes. And we'll also be sending out a PDF in the next day or two of the presentation. So you won't have to scramble and take copious notes. We welcome you to do that. We'll actually send you a copy of the presentation so you'll have it to refer to in the future. All right, let's move along and talk a little bit about the New Hampshire Partners for Healthy Schools. The New Hampshire Partners for Healthy Schools is comprised of many of the partners you see here, everyone from Local Government Center who's hosting this webinar today, to Primex, the Department of Health and Human Services, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the Department of Agriculture, and so on and so forth. The partners were formed to provide technical expertise to schools to implement the Tools for Schools program, which is provided through EPA, and to assist schools in complying with state laws regarding indoor air quality. At this point, I'm going to pass the wand over to, the baton over to Eugene, and he's going to take over from here.
Thank you very much, Tim. Hi, everyone. It's Eugene Benoit from the EPA. I'm the Indoor Environments Coordinator in our region. I'm also the Tribal Air Coordinator. I'm also on our Regional Asthma team. So you can see that I do mostly, work with air quality and indoor air quality. So what you see in front of you here is actually the Tools for Schools kit. It comes in a box, and it seems that about a quarter of you online have seen this kit before. It's free from the EPA, and at the end of the presentation, I'm going to explain to you how to get a copy of it. Of course, it's available online. It's available on CD-ROM. So there's many different ways and many different versions of this kit. So I'm not going to go into particular detail about, all of the components, but you can see that we have like a problem-solving wheel. We have videos. Of course, now we have CDs and CD-ROMs. We have various checklists in the kit and so on. But this is something that I would go over when we do training with your school and take apart the kit and show you in detail all the components of the kit. And the basic way of going about implementing the Tools for Schools kit is basically, I break it up into like 4 sections. The first thing that we need is to have an IAQ team assembled at your school, and normally that would be like the principal, a school nurse, a teacher, a custodian, a parent, maybe someone from the local health office, and so on. So this is sort of the core group of people who would implement the Tools for Schools program. The very first action item that the team would do after we do training is that you would distribute the checklist to the appropriate personnel in the school. And we have about 8 or 9 different checklists, and the one that's used most often is the teacher's checklist, and has a various questions that the teachers would answer. And then the team would collect all of these checklists and then figure out where do the problems seem to be. They would basically summarize these checklists, and based on the findings from those checklists, then the team would conduct a walkthrough investigation of the school, both inside and outside of the building, paying particular attention to what was found in those checklists. And then based on the checklist and the walkthrough investigation, and maybe other folks who might be involved with ventilation, like HVAC folks, or any other reports from the school concerning like radon and asbestos and so on, then the team would set priorities and take actions to improve indoor air quality. So these are the basic steps of implementing Tools for Schools. And of course, the Partners for Healthy Schools will help you along the way in terms of implementing Tools for Schools properly in your school. So the basic strategy for improving indoor air quality in your classroom as well as throughout the school is to focus on 2 different things: proper ventilation and the source control of pollutants. And I would actually say trying to control the source of pollutant in the classroom is probably the most important thing. And you can see here that we have a variety of different pollutants in the school environment, from cleaning products, asthma triggers like mold, radon, and dust. And we're going to actually show you some pictures in a little while, and you'll be able to see some other sources of pollutant, and we'll mention a few more. And then, of course, proper ventilation. This is really important. I mean, if we didn't have any pollutants at all in the classroom, we still need to have basic ventilation just to remove the carbon dioxide that's exhaled by the occupants. But because we do have sources in classrooms, we follow the guidelines of ASHRAE, which say that each classroom needs 15 cubic feet of fresh air per person per minute to maintain good ventilation and reduce pollution levels. And so I'm going to show you some pictures, and you'll see how ventilation can be compromised in a classroom.
So what are some of the common mistakes that teachers make in the classroom that affect ventilation?
Well, in this picture here, you can see that we have a unit ventilator close to the window here. And if you look closely, you'll see that there's like plants there. There's like some other containers. Of course, we have some clutter in this classroom as well. But in terms of affecting indoor air quality, if you put plants, on a unit ventilator and you're watering them, let's say you're over-watering them, I mean, you can imagine that water could spill down there, wet the filter, you could have mold growing on the filter, and simply just blocking the unit ventilator is an issue in itself. But of course, when you have other things like plants, and of course soil contains a lot of bacteria and mold, and that's being heated like during the winter time, so that's producing a lot of pollutants that get recirculated. So this is, something here. I mean, sometimes they're just blocked, by books and so on, which is an issue. But, I think plants in the classroom, we have a policy about that they really shouldn't be in there.
So basically, by having those plants there, it's allowing that ventilation system to just disperse all the matter that breaks down off of those plants into the air for kids to breathe. And a kid with asthma, this could be a potential trigger.
Oh yeah, this is definitely an issue. And many people think that plants actually improve indoor air quality. Well, very slightly. I mean, I think there's more disadvantages to having plants in the classroom. And if also you look at the very top of this classroom, you see there, I think that's a return vent. And it's possible that you may have short-circuiting in this classroom, because here you have air coming in through the unit ventilator, and then the air could be simply just wafted straight up to the return, and then the rest of the classroom might not have proper mixing. So I think there's an issue here. I'm just not sure if there's actually another vent further inside the classroom here where you can have proper ventilation. So this is just an example. of, where, we would walk into a classroom doing a walkthrough investigation, and we would say, well, look, this is an issue here. And here is another picture that, shows a classroom that's quite cluttered. I can see that the chairs are on the desk, which is, a good thing to get the students to cooperate. And later on, we're going to list, 10 tips for classrooms in schools. And, one of them is getting students to cooperate. Sometimes they bring, like, cookies and snacks with them in school. They might leave them in their desk. I mean, that's an issue of, creating a pest problem. But simply having clutter, I mean, this allows critters, varmints, what we call them up here, to thrive in clutter and just simply finding things. So one of the tips is, trying to organize classrooms. This is really the thrust, I think, of this webinar, is to give you some tips on how to organize classroom. And we're going to have a special bonus at the end of this presentation on a presentation from Laconia, which gets right into that.
Now, with all that paper, there's a massive amount of paper on that desk, and you can't escape that in a school, but does paper break down and does it provide
paper does last quite a long time, but I think that the major issue is like fire hazard.
Okay.
I think just giving shelter to pests. I think just the issue of trying to find where, like, where pencils are and, and things like that. So I think keeping, a tidy classroom is just a benefit in terms of just finding things, reducing places for pests to thrive, and also I think just giving a sense of order in the classroom.
Okay.
So there's a whole bunch of issues like that. Of course, we're focusing on indoor air quality, and I think the pest issue is up there.
Certainly a problem.
And speaking of pests, or pets, I should say, here's a guinea pig. And you can see that, I think they do try to maintain it a little bit by, like, having this little broom thing. But generally speaking, the EPA in Tools for Schools, we don't think that animals belong in the classroom. There's often, kids with asthma, and, there's dander issues from the pets and urine issues. And, of course, if you're going to be feeding a pet, you have food there. That's going to be luring in, mice in particular, and perhaps other insects. So we don't think it's just a general policy not bringing in animals into the classroom. I mean, they're cute and so on, and plants are also very lovely, but these two things really do compromise air quality.
And I noticed they have the heating ducts right underneath.
Oh my, yes.
Right underneath the cage, and the cage looks like it needs a little upkeep.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem. I mean, the question is, if you're going to have animals, which we don't recommend, I mean, the question is, maintaining it, keeping it clean, and then keeping it by the air supply like this. I mean, basically, you're just exposing everybody in the classroom to, all of the dander and biological, byproducts from a guinea pig. And then, of course, another issue is, volatile organic compounds, which come from a variety of cleaning products. And then here you have charcoal lighter, which is flammable. And, I guess my concern would be, looking at these bags, what's in there. So it's very important that, you take a look at all of the products that you have in your classroom or in your school and really ask the question, do we really need those? Do we need that quantity of it? Do we need to keep flammables in the school? And it looks like next to it, I'm not sure if that's a fan, but it looks like maybe some kind of vent. I mean, again, any kind of off-gassing of these products can go directly into, unit ventilator or right into the air handling unit of a school. So I think this is an important part of, maintaining good indoor air quality in schools, is maintaining the chemicals that are used, in laboratories like chem labs or in storage closets. And I've been to many schools, and just about every storage closet has stuff in there that people don't even know what it is anymore. It's just been there for a long time. So I think now and then it's important, probably annually, to take a look and inventory the school and see what all the products are, discard the ones properly that are not used anymore, and just keep the amount that you need for, the next few weeks or months, and not have huge supplies of chemicals in your school.
And the Department of Labor in New Hampshire, and that past slide and the current slide you see in front of you, requires that any chemicals that you have in the classroom or in the school building itself require a material safety data sheet. And those typically come when you buy products through a purchasing agent through your school district. When people bring these products in from home, they oftentimes don't come with a material data safety sheet, a material safety data sheet. So what a Department of Labor can write up a fine for not having those available. So if we often discourage at Local Government Center, discourage your employees or your teachers or anyone else from bringing in products from the home.
Yes. Well, I mean, you should have. I mean, if you're going to order chemicals, make sure you have the material safety data sheets for them. But there's also an issue of personnel bringing in their own products, sometimes their own pesticides, and obviously that's a big concern. And here's a picture from a chemistry lab. I've been in several inspections over the years, and we've run across bottles of chemicals. I mean, luckily this one seems to have a label, but I've seen many unlabeled jars. I mean, some of them could be explosion hazards after a while. Sometimes two chemicals are very close to each other. I mean, who knows if there's some reactivity going on. So it's also important for the chemistry classrooms and labs to take a look and make sure that the chemicals they have are the ones that are going to be used within that year. Old ones should be discarded, and this one says poison on it. I mean, I'm not sure what kind of experiment anybody would want to do with something that is poisonous in a chemistry classroom. And here we're going to talk a little bit about mold. Here we have some stained ceiling tiles, and looks like it goes further back there. Question is, I mean, who knows what's growing above the ceiling tiles? I mean, it looks like it's kind of moldy from the bottom. It can only be probably worse on top where it's dark. And generally, the return plenum for the ventilation system in schools is usually right above the ceiling tiles. So again, you may have an issue of air being compromised by a moisture problem, like this. And also, who knows if it's dripping down the walls? I mean, the problem with mold is that normally it's hidden. It's behind walls, it's above ceiling tiles, it's under the roof. This is obviously a big concern. Mold's an asthma trigger. And look at this, the height of this shelf here. I don't know, does this violate any kind of...
Yeah, the Department of Labor likes to see, I believe you can't have anything within a foot of the ceiling because it can impede, it's not just the Department of Labor, it's also fire protection, is that you need to keep so many inches or feet away from the ceiling so that sprinklers can properly work. So in an instance like this could possibly block any sprinkler that would be up in that area from properly dispersing amongst the classroom, in the case of a fire.
And who knows, it looks like this has been dripping. I mean, if it's dripping into containers, I mean, these containers will probably hold water. They can grow mold. So obviously what needs to be done here is that the roof needs to be repaired. I mean, someone needs to be brought in and figure out where is the leak happening. It's got to be repaired. I mean, the key to solving a mold problem is addressing the moisture problem. And probably of all the things that can damage a school, it's probably water, uncontrolled water in a school building, either from leaky roofs or leaky plumbing or condensation on cold surfaces or groundwater, coming up. So there's many different sources of water, and that really can damage a school. And of course, the presence of water in a school also allows pests to thrive. So that's, a double whammy there.
And I want to thank Tim Rice, one of our participants, who chimed in and said 18 inches is the rule. So you can't have anything within 18 inches of the ceiling. So thank you very much, Tim. We appreciate that.
Yep, thank you. And here is a return vent. You can see it looks like there's been some water damage around it, some peeling paint. And then it looks like probably less than 50% of the air can be returned through this particular vent. I mean, you can see it's kind of caked on the bottom. I mean, this just shows you the quality of the air in this particular classroom, that it's really dusty, it's adhering to the surface. I mean, not only do unit ventilators that supply fresh air have to be maintained and the filters changed, seasonally, but you also have to look at the return and make sure that that's cleaned properly. So this is just an example here of just, this classroom was not properly maintained for good ventilation. So,
and how can a facilities manager clean out something that is that clogged? Do they take it down and just rinse it out?
Yeah,
is that the best way?
Yes, generally the returns have to be cleaned normally annually. You can see that you could probably take this out, unscrew it here, take it out, wash it out, and then clean the surface. That's generally what can be done with that.
Okay, so it's not a big expensive process to clean something like that, just something that needs to be done on a more regular basis than apparently what has happened here.
Right, and I'm glad you mentioned the low cost, no cost aspect. I mean, I think that's what we're really trying to promote. We're trying to give advice and training and so on that really looks at the low cost, no cost approach, and that's what Tools for Schools is all about. That's what the Partners for Healthy Schools is all about, is trying to do these very cheap things that can make a big difference in improving indoor air quality. And this is one example here of just, taking that out on an annual basis or just inspecting it first and seeing what needs to be cleaned. Here's another example of some clutter. You can see that we do have a diffuser in the room that is what supplies the fresh air to this classroom. It looks pretty clean. I wonder if it's working. Generally, sometimes you see a little bit of black streaks around that. That's just kind of the dust that impinges on surfaces because of the velocity of the air coming out of the diffuser. But again, this classroom could need some, tidying up, putting things that are like together and so on. So I guess the question we're asking is, do you want to have a classroom sort of like this, or, here, I should go like this, or maybe like this, So you can see here that things are pretty well organized. I'm wondering about the unit ventilator. I don't see it in the room. But this looks pretty tidy, So anyway, this is what one view of the classroom looked like before, and then after, I guess, a major overhaul, this is what it looked like. So I think that's a huge improvement. So now we're going to go over some IAQ tips for teachers and talk about some of the things that, just some basic tips. And I should give credit to the Connecticut Department of Public Health and other states that have put together a number of tips. And following this, we're going to send an email that has, tips for teachers, tips for schools, tips for custodians. So we have a lot of good, handy tips that school officials can use to, maintain and improve indoor air quality. So here
again, we'll be sending a PDF of this presentation as well, so
you
don't have to worry about writing, trying to keep up with us as far as keeping notes.
Exactly. So here are, I guess, the ones that we've agreed on as our partnership here, the top 10 no or low-cost IAQ interventions, and basically to address clutter. As you can see from the pictures, clutter can provide shelter for pests. It's hard to find things. It sets a good example, I think, for the students to keep themselves organized and their own desks organized, the classroom organized. And I think it's important to just know what everything is in the classroom and just to ask yourself, do I need this this year? Is it something that can be put into storage? Is it something I'll never use again? So these are the kind of questions to ask. And I can use this same advice from my own home.
Yes.
I mean, everybody's home's got like a closet or the basement that's got clutter. So this is easy to say, but really hard to implement. And help the ventilation do its job. Of course, don't block the unit ventilators, clean the returns when appropriate, and so on. So basically just do everything possible to allow the ventilation system to work properly. And of course, folks who are involved with the facilities, side of the school should look and make sure that the classrooms are getting fresh air, that the diffusers are working, that the returns are working. Sometimes you have like the return in a closet and the closet door is closed. Well, it's working, but it can't work because, it's just not able to. And then, of course, get the students involved. I think, it's not just incumbent on the school personnel to do everything. I think sometimes the students bring food into the classroom. They wear a lot of perfume sometimes. and their activities in terms of maybe the markers they're using. So there's a lot of things that students can do as well, and maybe there might be, a student or two who's really concerned about, air quality, and they can try to launch some kind of little campaign to make sure that they're doing their part. And then this is not just for the classroom, but I think for the school building, on the whole, is to look at walk-off mats. I heard at a conference that the cost to remove 1 pound of dirt from a school building is on the order of like $1,000. So the more dirt and dust we can keep out of the school building, the cheaper it is to maintain. Of course, the healthier it is. So these are things that a lot of schools across the country are using, are these long walk-off mats to try to capture the dirt before it ever gets deep into the school building. And these things can be easily cleaned, outside.
And one of the things we've suggested in the schools is to encourage kids to do stomp off as they come in.
Yeah.
And younger kids love it because they get to make a lot of noise clapping their feet against those walk-off mats, and it gets that extra debris off the bottom of their feet so they don't carry it in the classroom.
Right. I've noticed that some walk-off mats, they start off with like an aggressive pile or whatever that kind of really gets the dirt, and then the next part of the mat is a little bit softer. It kind of removes some of the loose particles, and then you finally have like another one that just removes the fine dust. So it's possible to get walk-off mats that actually have like a graduated kind of system where it really is aggressive at the very beginning and removes any rocks and pebbles and whatever from kids' feet, and then it kind of does that. So I think that's a pretty good idea. Let's see. Of course, we talked a lot about pests. We really think that schools should adopt IPM, and I think the reason why pests are there is because they're looking for shelter, like clutter. They're looking for food, and they're looking for water. So those are the three things. They're just like us, they're looking for a place to live, and IPM is all about trying to make it uninteresting, I guess, for pests to want to be in a school building. So everybody can do their part.
And a good integrated pest management program will keep those nasty, harsh chemicals out of your school that some may otherwise think are safe to remove animals. And you don't want to use the traditional bait because then the animals crawl in your wall space and they die, and then you've got the decaying animal in your wall as well to deal with.
Exactly, yeah. It's all about trying to keep them out and then to use the least amount of pesticides in order to really, make sure that the school is free of pests. Empty the trash daily. I hope this is a practice in, New Hampshire schools. I know some states have adopted it where, the trash needs to be removed at the end of the day, because if it's just left there all night, you can think of the apple cores and the candy bars that are left there all night will create, smells and odors that will draw in pests. So that's why it's a good practice that it be done, toward the end of the day as opposed to doing this in the morning.
And to a mouse, that's Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh, yes. Even just a tiny crumb, like for a roach, is like a Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah.
So even small amounts. Of course, this is as a school policy, the no idling policy. I mean, many times buses and cars pick up the kids right where you have the fresh air intake for the school. So this is, obviously a problem. And we're also concerned about, the wider picture of just, idling for a long time, burning gas. And so on. But, in terms of indoor air quality, we're concerned about fumes being re-entrained, into the school and then being circulated throughout the school building. So we think this is a good idea. And know where your combustion appliances are. Obviously, we're concerned about, carbon monoxide issues. And, now and then, it comes up mainly in residences, but I know there was a case where there was carbon monoxide issue in the ice skating rink, but it does happen. I mean, I do get reports of schools having, combustion appliances that for some reason were not properly vented, and of course carbon monoxide is, deadly at, high concentrations and for a period of time. So these things need to be inspected annually by a professional. That's the EPA's recommendation.
Okay. And a combustion appliance would be similar to, it could be Bunsen burners.
Yes.
gas ranges in the kitchen.
Exactly. Hot water heaters, the heating system for the school. I mean, basically anything that burns fuel.
Okay.
You know, that burns oil or gas, even wood stoves. I mean, things like that. And so anything that burns fuel, that produces fumes, does have the potential to produce carbon monoxide. And of course, no pets in the classroom. I mean, they're cute things. I mean, I even own a couple of rabbits, and every now and then they bring them in, and it's like, oh my goodness, let's get them out. You know, I say, what about the indoor air quality? My kids look at me like, say what? But in a classroom, you have to make sure that kids come in with different sets of kind of like health status. I mean, there are a lot of kids that have asthma. And, an animal in the classroom is really difficult for a kid to deal with. It's, sensitive to, cat dander or mouse dander or, any pests like that, or guinea pigs or hamsters and so on. They really have no place in the classroom because there are always children who, have asthma, and these things are of particular, concern to them. So obviously, you should perhaps, schools should develop a policy about no animals in the classroom. That's part of Tools for Schools.
And when I learned about those, when you have guinea pigs in the classroom and the hamsters and whatnot, it actually shortens their lifespan by up to 40% because of the excess stress they get from all those kids being around it. So those animals become very stressed out from all the handling and all the noise. So you're actually doing the animal service by keeping it out of the classroom so it lives a longer life.
Right, exactly. And also I know kids tend to overfeed the animals too, and too much water and so on. But anyway, some sample policies are available at our partner's website here, New Hampshire Healthy Schools Environments.org. So take a look at that. You can see some sample policies. And then, of course, learn how to use the EPA Tools for Schools kit. I'm the regional coordinator. You can certainly call me if you're implementing the kit. And then I think I have some information here on how to order it. You can order it toll-free. They provide one free kit to each school that calls. There's my number and email. And there again is our partner's website. So we recommend if you don't have a kit, I think under the new state law that was passed last year, they require that schools have access or physically have the kit in the school. So you can have the physical kit, you can have a CD-ROM, or you can certainly get whatever you need from the internet and print whatever pages you need from there. So anyway, that's the resources.
And that would be the EPA.gov website. You could find the Tools for Schools.
Yes, exactly. It's www.ep.gov/IAQ. That's our main website.
And the important thing to remember there too is whether you order the kit or go online, when you order the physical kit, you get the first one at no cost. So just remember that. If you're concerned about forming a budget line for this, it won't cost you anything, and you can get as many copies as you want online.
Exactly. So we recommend that every school get a copy, and then once you take a look at it, you're interested in training. That's when the partner steps in, and we will help you implement the program and help you improve whatever indoor air quality issues you have or maintain what you have. So that's really the thrust, and we're trying to make it really no cost. I mean, there's no cost for the kid, there's no cost for our involvement, and so we see it as a win-win situation.
Nonprofit all the way around.
Exactly. So we're planning another webinar on summer tips, and I think we do have a date of April 24th.
April 24th will be the next one.
And we think this will be a good webinar for the facilities folks at schools to maintain the school during the summer months. I mean, maybe some schools have like camps or whatever, but some schools may just stay, idle and sort of dormant, and there are things that, need to be done to make sure that, over the summer the school doesn't develop any kind of mold problems or pest problems, and, we want our schools in New Hampshire to be, nice and clean and ready for the fall session. But if they're used also during the summertime, we also have tips for that as well. So I mentioned that we have a special bonus. Oh, let's see here.
Just press escape.
Escape. Just
And
bear
we're
with
going
us.
to pull over the other presentation. Here, I'll do it.
Okay.
Let's,
Yes. Now I'm going to present a little presentation from Laconia. We had last week Janet Bro from Laconia, as well as Lisa Morris, who is the Executive Director of the Lakes Region Partnership for Public Health. They gave a presentation to our group, Partnership for Healthy Schools, here in Concord. And, you know, we were all so impressed. We thought, wow, we'd love to showcase, you know, this, their presentation on, from their green team. So let me just start it here. So they start off with a very inspirational quote here. For things to change, somebody somewhere has to start acting differently. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's your team. Picture that person or picture those people. So I think that's really a good thing to follow in terms of if you're going to make things different, if you're going to clean up a classroom, things have to be a little different. So what they do in Laconia is that every Wednesday they take 15 minutes to choose you know, a particular item to work on. And the basic strategy of organizing the classroom is to assign everything a home. I mean, put things that are similar together. If you have different kinds of glues like paper glue and wood glue, you put those together. If you have classroom games or whatever, you make sure you put the games together and so on. So this is, we'll show you some pictures about, you know, how like before and after pictures of classrooms, and I think you'll get a very good idea. Of course, you know, we talked a lot about this when we see cluttered classrooms, reduce and recycle. What can you get rid of? What do you need? You know, make sure you label things that aren't going to be used for a while, but you think you may need later. So I think this is really good, useful advice here. Reuse, repurpose. I learned a new word.
yeah, repurpose. Wow.
Repurpose. I like that very much. So maybe, you know, you might not be able to use it, but somebody else can use it. Maybe things can be donated. Maybe you can think, oh, gee, you know, last year I used this particular set of paints to do this project, and this year I'm going to use those paints to do a different project. So, so things like that. And then, of course, using scratch paper. I mean, if it's just used on one side, you know, even my own office, I use that for just taking notes, you know, at meetings and so on. Just use the other side of the paper. So reuse, repurpose, it's all good. Create reminders or choose to organize. I mean, I definitely need that. Like, you know, at my house, Monday, I have a big sign on the door, take out the trash. Well, I think, you know, schools and students need that as well to make sure that they stay on top of, you know, making sure that they keep their classrooms, you know, organized and clean and so forth. So I like this, Extreme Makeover Classroom Edition. I knew it was coming. So it might go big, a big hit. So let's see what they have. So heater vents exposed. Here's a before and after picture. You can see that there's a whole bunch of stuff. Not exactly. Some things are on the unit ventilator, but it's certainly blocking the ability of the unit ventilators to operate, you know, at 100% efficiency. And here's an after picture. You can see that the vents are free. They're able to circulate the air, which is really important. When you have to think of unit ventilators as kind of creating like a, you know, they blow the air up, and then it goes like right underneath the ceiling. It goes to the other side of the classroom, then it kind of moves along the floor, and then it goes into a return chamber, a return vent. So, so that's important to think about how ventilation really happens in the classroom. Here's the teacher's area. Of course, you have one that's a little bit cluttered, and then they decided to throw away a lot of stuff, put things in cabinets, label them, and so on. So this is like a before and after. Here's the PE storage closet. You can see that it looks like nothing was thrown away, and I think that's an important thing to start with. Is we don't have to throw away anything, but let's just try to organize it as we go through it. So you can see they put all of the balls in the trash can and all of the little other games. My only concern, though, is, you know, it's a little bit high toward the ceiling here, so there might be an issue with, you know, safety and fire hazard. But again, it looks a lot better. I mean, like things are stored with like things. There's storage bins, I see. So anyway, this looks a lot better. I mean, the thing is you can find things.
Yes.
And then here, Classroom Game Center, Gosh, I wish I had one of those. When
Wish my game area looked this neat at home.
Yeah, so let's see, like, where's the Sorry game? But here you got them all three organized together in this after picture. So this looks a lot better. All right. So that's the end of the presentation. Let's see, it's 11:40. We have 20
this is
minutes.
Perfect. So
20 minutes for questions and answers.
what we'll do is we'll take a few minutes to go over questions and answers. So if you have not typed in a question yet, please do so. I'll look at them coming in. Excellent. So one of the questions are we getting the Laconia project as well? We'll send both of those along to you. So thank you for asking that question. We'll make sure that goes out. This question comes out of the North Country. The question was, how do you measure the airflow in the classroom? Mm-hmm. So if I'm a school, how would I judge the airflow? Is there a way to do that on their own, or is this something they have to?
Well, there is a very sophisticated way. You can use like a ventilation flow hood, which is a device that goes over the diffuser, and it can actually measure how much air is coming out of that particular diffuser. But that's, normally experts or, HVAC people will do this. But generally, you could, put like a tissue up there. You can see if there's actually any airflow coming out. Generally, you can feel it on the return. Generally, if you put a sheet of paper, it will stick to the return. That will give you an idea of how much air is going through. So that's sort of qualitatively, but quantitatively, normally you need to have some equipment.
Okay.
Also, if you measure the carbon dioxide rate, inside the classroom, and then you measure it outside, and you look at the occupancy in the classroom, that's another way to sort of determine the ventilation rate. But again, that requires some mathematics and having to measure the carbon dioxide in the classroom. So there's no easy way to know if you're getting proper ventilation. But if you're getting airflow into a classroom and it's, it feels like the air is fresh, the pollutant levels are down, the dust level is down. So it's a matter of also the perception of air quality, But you do have to use some equipment. I mean, if you really want to get a precise measurement of, how effective the ventilation system is.
And what we can suggest from a liability from a property liability perspective is, if you contact your workers' comp property liability provider, and they may be able to provide that service, or find someone who can provide that service for you to measure airflow. So that is one of the suggestions we can provide here from Local Government Center. All right, we have quite a few questions coming in. Let's see. Here is, are there regulations for a comfortable temperature in a classroom?
Okay, well, there's no regulations from the EPA or the federal government, but I think there are some state regulations for the temperature range that classrooms and schools should be at. It all depends on the time of year, but if you do want to see what we follow the ASHRAE guidelines for temperature and relative humidity, and that website is ASHRAE, ASHRAE.org. And they actually list all of the recommendations for airflow, for temperature, relative humidity, for just about every type of building you can imagine.
So what was that?
ASHRAE.org. And they're
I'm sending that out to everyone who's asking questions.
Okay.
All right. I thought I was.
Yeah, but there
we go.
Yeah, but there are minimum temperatures set by the states, depending upon the time of year, I believe. So I don't know what it is for New Hampshire, but I'm quite sure that there are some recommendations or regulations.
So the next question that comes in is, what about fish and fish tanks and turtles in classrooms? Should they be excluded as well?
Well, again, it's really always interesting to have like critters in the classroom for the kids. They love to play with fish and turtles, but again, we don't really recommend any animals or fish in the classroom. I remember going to a school in Boston, and they had an aquarium, and of course, the air was being bubbled, and on the back of the aquarium, there was like water that was always on the wall, and when we removed the aquarium, we saw that there was a big splotch of mold that they didn't even see behind the aquarium. So it's not only just, I think anything like that. I mean, generally fish, there's no issue with like indoor air quality from fish themselves, although some people could be sensitive. But it's just having, that much water in the classroom. Let's just assume that it got knocked over, or there's a leak or whatever, or dead fish left, that die over an extended period of time. I mean, those things can cause an indoor air quality problem.
Yeah, like during a spring break.
During spring break, people generally forget about these things. They might forget to feed the turtle. The turtle's overfed, or things like that. So, and then people do have sensitivities, with reptiles and with fish. So we generally don't recommend them.
Okay, here's a good one. They're all great questions. Here's a very good one here. Where can I find a sample policy for animals in schools, idling policy, furniture from outside of that isn't purchased at the school, a no chemical policy from the homes? Where can they find policies on that?
Okay, well, that's a good question. We do have sample policies in the Tools for Schools kit. We also have sample policies at our partner website. Let's see, right over here. If you take a look at this website, of course, they can always call me if they have any more, detailed questions about exactly, which policy they're looking for. But the Tools for Schools kit has policies. The New Hampshire Healthy Schools Environments.org has sample policies. So I think there are plenty out there. Just about every state health department has policies.
Okay.
So they're pretty available. They're fairly consistent, from what I've seen.
All right. Here's another question. What is your opinion on ultraviolet filtration in addition to existing filters for heating systems?
Yes.
Are they necessary? Are they overkill or are they helpful?
Yes. Generally, the filters that are used, like in unit ventilators and in, central air or central heating systems, those filters are primarily there to protect the equipment. If we were to put, filters to protect, the most sensitive person in the school who may, have asthma, most ventilation systems really can't handle like a HEPA-style filtration system in the school. But generally, we recommend when schools are being cleaned, with vacuum cleaners, that a HEPA filter be used to try to eliminate dust and use a HEPA filter in that particular case. Now, the issue of UV light, this is not an EPA policy that, we think that they are effective in the school system. I mean, they do, the ultraviolet light within the school ventilation system does kill bacteria and viruses, but I don't know of any definitive study that says, we think that schools should have them or that they, really clean the air or have a great beneficial result. But I think, I've seen a wide variety of different studies. Some claim yes, some claim no. But I think for now, the important thing is maintaining the ventilation system, make sure it's clean, the filters are clean, or exchanged regularly, and that we maintain, we control the pollutant sources in the school. I think that's really sort of a good way to go about it. Control sources and make sure that we have proper ventilation and that we're getting good fresh air from outside. That is really, if schools can achieve that, that would be really great.
And save you a whole lot of money.
Exactly.
So ultimately, good housekeeping.
Good housekeeping, definitely.
And that becomes everyone's responsibility, not just that of custodial staff.
But I should mention there's plenty good technology out there. A lot of it hasn't been properly or completely studied by EPA because there's always, every day, there's new things out there, the use of UV light, the use of bactericides and ductwork, new products that are coming out, so-called, green products. We have, the EPA has not been able to study all of these things. So we generally think that good housekeeping, using Tools for Schools, proper ventilation, and doing a walkthrough investigation and just, making sure that you don't have mold problems, controlling moisture in the school, those are really the fundamentals of maintaining good indoor air quality in schools.
Okay, here's a good question, and I'm going to kick this back to our webmaster. And I believe I have the answer to this, but I'm going to get the definitive answer. Christian, who's in the room with us, he's our technical guy to make sure that nothing goes wrong during this webinar, because otherwise Eugene and I would be left in the dark. His question is, I would like to be able to present this webinar to the teaching staff. Can I get a disk copy? We do provide a link that goes out to everyone, so you can actually click on our website. You'll get a specific link at the conclusion of this presentation, and you can just play it for your staff at any time. Is that correct?
Yep, it's going to be about a week.
It'll be about a week. It will be available within a week, and you could bring this to a staff meeting. You could bring this to during a training day or all staff day, and you could play it then. So yes, absolutely. Please feel free to pass it along. We invite you to do that. All right, there are written guidelines, regulations regarding cleaning solutions for desk tables and other hard surfaces.
Well, I mean, EPA certainly has been, promoting the use of better, cleaning products and so on. I mean, we always stress low VOC. We always stress products that don't contain any group A carcinogens, and, we list those, on our EPA websites, in particular like benzene. We would say that would be a red flag for any product containing that. But we don't have any, we don't sort of list the products, on EPA's website and say you should choose these products and not choose those products. I think it's a matter of, looking at the material safety data sheets and following our, general EPA guidance on looking at low VOC and making sure that whatever products you're using don't contain any carcinogenic compounds.
And that would be epa.gov/IAQ?
Yes.
All right. Another question, another comment here. Someone had pointed out you can find sample policies for some of the questions that were asked earlier about pets, etc., on the New Hampshire School Board Association website. So just go to I believe it's nhsba.org, and you can check out their website, and they have sample policies as well. Here's a good question. This would also be helpful for people at home, too, who have ductwork. How often should main ductwork be cleaned? Is there a general...
Yeah, we do actually, EPA does have a fact sheet on cleaning ductwork. And generally, we don't, our recommendation is that it's not that it be cleaned on a regular basis, but that it should be, inspected, and that the only time that ductwork really should be cleaned is if it's compromised. Let's say you have a moisture problem, you have mold in ductwork and so on, but it's not a recommendation that, ductwork just, be cleaned on a regular basis. I think it's on a case-by-case basis, depending on what's going on inside of the air handling unit or inside of the ductwork. So, of course, many companies will say, oh, you have to have it cleaned, so often, and then we're going to apply some kind of biocide inside of the ductwork and so on. That's not in keeping with, EPA's policies regarding ductwork cleaning. So I would say take a look at our fact sheet. That's, again, available online at our main, website. You can probably just go online and through a search engine and put EPA duct cleaning fact sheet, and it'll pop right up.
All right, and we're down to the last question. I want to thank everyone. You've provided a plethora of very good questions. And this last one is, can they preview the April 24th webinar on summer cleaning, determine if we want to schedule our staff for reviewing? The presentation is in the process of being formulated and built at this point. So once we have that completed, we can reach out to you. I believe it's Cheryl Soma. You can correct me on your pronunciation of your last name. But we'll send out a brief description. It will actually be on the LGC website probably within the next week and a half to 2 weeks. There'll be a full description of what the presentation will look like. And also, if you wanted to sign one person up, if one person signs up and participates in the webinar, we could send you the link afterwards, and you could have people listen to the webinar at the conclusion. So it's another way to do it as well. If you want them to be more interactive, then yes, they can all sign up at once. But if you would like to listen to it after the fact, as long as you have one participant participate, we can send the link and you can listen to it as a group.
Or everybody in a room.
Or everybody in a room works just as well, too.
Well, if they wanted to get a preview of the Summer Tips webinar, actually the information we're going to be using is I know Connecticut has a website that has that. It's actually originally an EPA document that has been kind of transformed, modified by various state health departments. So again, if you were to go to a search engine and put summer tips for schools, indoor air quality, you'd probably find, a fact sheet that has that. But I think what we're hoping is that we're looking for school officials who have some interest or expertise on, maintaining schools and have utilized this kit before. So, we're still in a formative, process of organizing this webinar, and we're hoping to actually sort of continue doing webinars on a very regular basis for the next, coming years, and invite various speakers, invite school personnel from New Hampshire and across the country. So this is sort of like the first one that we've held since one that was done last year on just the new state law. But we're going to be looking at, various topics, issues, implementing the program, figuring out how to help the schools in New Hampshire, honor the law, as well as, giving them useful tips, what other trainings that we have, and also just hearing back from you all about some of the things that you would like to learn more about. And, we see it as our job to really, organize around that and provide you the information that you need.
And that's a perfect segue to remind you that you will get a copy of this presentation, a link to the webinar, as well as, last but not least, a survey. And we do encourage you to fill out that survey because it does give us information and tools to create future webinars. So we want to thank you all for your time, and I want to thank you, Eugene, for sharing your expertise with the participants out here. We had 50 participants, so I want to thank you all for participating, and who knows how many more are in those rooms listening as well. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and we will talk to you on April 24th.
All right. Thank you very much. Take care, everybody.